No talking.
No talking anymore. Good evening. It is 5:31, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Emily McCormick. This is the Educational Programs and Services Committee meeting. Tonight we have Carol Giblin, we have JP, we have Dr. Carol Giblin, sorry. We have JP, we've got Dr. Andrea Farina. Amy's not here, Christine's not here, we've got Ms. Bast, and we have Dr. Wolof. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Fantastic, and we have Mr. Roth, and we have Melanie Cunningham. Fantastic. I will start with getting approval of the May 15th EPS minutes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Fantastic. Any questions or comments?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. And now the moment we've all been waiting for,
Ta-da.
the TSI 24-25 year in review and 25-26 plan.
Oh, where is it?
Next page, go to
Oh,
the next,
is it next?
next slide.
It's
It'll
in
be
there.
right
Oh,
there.
geez, that's me.
Okay.
Wait, it's
Hey.
technology.
Hey.
I'm like, wait, where are you at?
You say it's linked, right?
Consistent.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Ready.
Because I can find it and resend it.
It's totally.
You tell me when. Oh, it's
Okay.
not going.
We can go to the first slide, like I think the first, is it linked to my presentation?
You can start.
There we go, okay.
Yeah, you got it?
Okay, so, nice to be here again tonight, to talk about TSI, Targeted School Improvement. This is pretty much a summary of our goals for 24-25 and the progress we made across those goals, as well as the discussion of the plan that we have to put to PDE by the end of September for approval for this year, as we were designated again for TSI based on our subgroup performance. So it's just this will start with a review of this year's goals based on the end of the year data. So
Before you start, can you just give me a refresher? When again will we evaluate to see if we're going to be on to the
So,
next
yep,
year?
so last year, we received the designation right before winter break, around the holiday season. I would imagine that based on the timeline of when the plans are due, at the end of, I think it's probably gonna come mid-year, where where it'll be determined whether or not we are identified for that targeted group.
And what are your thoughts if you had to?
Well, based on our goals and our data, it really comes down to the state's targets, and it's a sliding scale. I mean, our staff worked really hard and we met all of our TSI goals in our plan, and all of our second tier data looks preliminarily clean. However, you know, the biggest factor that pinged us for our special ed population, honestly, is our Keystone performance. That's the first tier data that they look at. So, you know, growth and achievement is a really big piece of the, you know, the designation. And then once they get past your first tier data, which is the Keystone proficiency, they look at all your second tier data, which is really what a lot of our goals target, is that second tier. So it depends on, you know, the ratings from the state, the scale that they choose to use. I will share that across Pennsylvania, the data that we received indicates that like 97% of all school districts have dropped in ELA proficiency this year. And that's not just a Keystone thing, that's a PSSA thing. We were at a data institute this summer and they kind of walked us through some of that about the Keystone proficiency and ELA dropping. So I don't know. I mean, I am confident in our plan and I'm confident in the work that our staff did. It just comes down to what the state's scale looks like. And once our 2022-23 data comes off and they look at our overall performance over the last 2 years, that'll really kind of determine what it looks like. I mean, last year was better than the year before. So if we stay on pace with that year even, we've shown improvement for 2 years straight. So that's kind of the goal. I don't know.
No, I
Anything
agree.
else?
I think the 1 year that was calculated, I think at the end of the year we showed you that once we drop that year, we anticipated, but it is based on the CUD score that is determined, and we don't know that, and they're not transparent about what that's going to be until we get those letters issued to us. So I will say those 2-tier things that originally got us on there for the special ed subgroup, that has been rectified.
It has been.
And so the hope is that not having that will keep us out of, you know, take us off the list.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Okay, so last year's goals, the first one we were focusing on was ninth grade credit accrual. With our changing credits to 24 credit requirement minimum to graduate, the focus was we wanted 95% of our freshman class, that includes non-identified as well as identified students, to just receive at least 6 credits. That was a target for our first goal. So the data is on the next slide. That target, we had everybody but 5 students receive at least 6 credits. So we had a 97.7 success rate last year. Our target was 85%. So I said 95, I don't have my glasses on, should wear my glasses. It's 85%. So we exceeded our goal in that category for goal 1. Goal 2 and 3 are centered around, and the reason I have them on the same slide is because they come out of the TSI portal together for some reason, because they're in the same priority list, which is related to our MTSS platform and student achievement. So our regular attendance is a goal that our subgroups in our second tier were an area that we were focusing on, and we really hadn't tracked this prior to last year. And so we set a minimal goal of a 70% ADA rate, an average daily attendance rate of our special ed and our economically disadvantaged students. And we were trying to, obviously track the goal to see like what a baseline was, and then kind of figure out, how that would look moving forward, because that is part of your rating scale. And your rating scale is your ADA rating for your overall population, but then you can also be pinged for a specific subgroup in that category if their ADA is lower than the overall percentage of regular daily attendance for the whole school. So much like every other category in the Future Ready Index, you can get identified for attendance as well, so we wanted to make sure that we were tracking it. And then the other goal was centered around our students with disabilities and overall its graduation rate, essentially. So we were targeting to make sure that our students with disabilities, we wanted 85% of them, I'm reading it correctly, I'm squinting at it, 85% of our students with the disability, we wanted them to pass all their required courses by the end of their 12th grade year. Now, there is a component of a 4 and 5 year cohort, meaning like the students who go longer than 4 years, but regardless of whether or not they were, let's say 4+ year, we wanted their 12th grade year to be satisfied with passing all courses. So for these 2 goals, we'll start with attendance. The, next slide.
Oh, right.
The ADM, or ADA, sorry, for students with disabilities was around 89.5%. So 89.5% of students identified disabilities based on, our wonderful data partnership with Linkit. We're able to track this really well. They were attending regularly every day, and our economically disadvantaged students, the baseline we got was 90.67% attending every day. So that's good. We satisfied our 70% goal. And then for the 12th grade course passing, we have 53 students who were identified in grade 12 in the class of 2024, and our target was 85%, and we hit a 94.33% pass rate, with 50 of 53 passing all required courses. So we met our goal related to that as well. This is exceptionally difficult to hit this because, as I shared in previous presentations, if you look at that number, we had only 3 students that didn't make it, and we dropped 6% pretty much just from 3 kids.
And
So-
there's been 2 of those 3 kids. One of them, we just had a meeting today for returning, but 2 of those 3 kids, you can't pass a course if you don't attend school. And 2 of those 3, again, I'm gonna say missed at least. One did not attend, I'd say maybe a few days in the second semester. So like that,
Yeah.
those things right there, it's gonna cause a difficulty.
Yeah, I mean, so the other thing too that makes this, just to kind of pivot with that number up there with that 53 is, you have an average of between 40 to 50 students per grade level that are identified with IEPs. So, you have approximately, let's call it a 20% special education rate per grade level. That fluctuates, I'm ballparking it. So when you look at a TSI designation based on your achievement levels, when you're looking at a Keystone exam, you only have 40 students or 45 students that are taking that exam. That doesn't include students who opt out, whose parents come in and opt them out of the exam, which means that and which is nothing we can control. We can discuss Act 158, we can discuss the importance of the exam, but we can't force a family, if they choose to opt their student out of the exam, to do it. So what they base the rating for Keystone Proficiency and Growth on is the kids who take it and what their scores are. So if you only have, let's say, if you have 4 or 5 opt-outs of the exam, you're down to, 47, 48 kids taking it. So when they look at proficiency and growth, they're looking at a very small sample, which means that every student who doesn't hit the target drops you by almost 3%. So it takes 10 students and you're dropping 30% off your proficiency. So just to understand kind of like this and I shared this with the staff in our opening meeting this year, we have a very small margin of error with Keystone exams and like what we have to do to show proficiency. Now growth is a huge component of this, but proficiency alone is that. It's a very small margin of error. So the key element here is that we've met this goal. The next goal from last year was related to our career readiness standards, and this is another second tier component, and at the end of the 11th grade year, the state pulls a set of artifacts from our system to determine, one of our standards through chapter 3 through 9 is to get students prepared for college and career readiness. It's a series of artifacts and activities they have to complete. Our target was to hit 90% of our 11th graders would complete, and submit everything that they were required to do by the end of the year. And we satisfied the goal with a 99.28 overall percentage and a 40 of 41 special ed percentage, which is 97.5%. So Angela, our college career coordinator, Jen Senevitis, the assistant principal, Megan, NTSS, and the team worked very, very hard to get these kids. Christine Campbell, our special ed supervisor, because this includes students that are off-site as well, that are still listed as our students. Their data gets included in this percentage. So getting to this number is very important for our second tier data, but it is very, we have to be very strategic with it. So we satisfied that goal, and then the last goal was related to classroom visibility and presence, and we wanted to complete 130 classroom visits per quarter. We have roughly 65 professional staff that are going to be receiving classroom visits, and I will share that data on the next slide here. We did 537 classroom visits last year, our target was 520. That includes walkthroughs in classrooms, which are short visits, anywhere between like 5 and 10 minutes, all the way through formal observation. So if we gave a formal observation where we were there the whole period, that counted as one visit, and then we would do a follow-up walkthrough, or it might be reversed. But we shared the data from walkthroughs at the middle of the year in our faculty meeting. We shared it. I shared a little bit it drove our targets that I shared with our staff this year, and it also pushed us towards how we crafted our PLC plan for this year. So we have 4 PLCs based on some of our walkthrough data that we saw last year. So this is it's great because we're out and we're visible and we're present, and I think the staff appreciates it. And this year we've rotated our supervision a little bit, so now we're going to see different departments. So they're going to get to see a different administrator multiple times. So I think that's a key to continuing to kind of evaluate instruction, drive some of the professional learning, which is part of our comprehensive plan, as well as integrate the instructional coach now. We have a full-time coach who's able to kind of be part of that process, as well as looking at our MTSS model and some of the tier 1 differentiated instructional strategies that we were seeing needed to be a focus area based on our classroom data. So we met all 5 of our goals last year.
Can I just stop you for a second?
Yep.
So those 537 visits, so basically half were the short ones and half were the long ones?
No, most of them were short.
Okay, I'm just
We have a 4-year observation cycle, so depending on how many staff needed a formal observation would have driven which ones got that. I don't have that number off the top of my head. I do know that there's, if I'd say like 20-30% of each department got a formal classroom observation, and all the non-tenured folks need 2, so they get 2 formals per year.
Gotcha.
So that kind of was mixed in there. The majority of the walkthroughs and the visits were done by my building team. There were some district walkthroughs done by different staff from district office, specialists and projects as well. So it's good.
Thank you.
Yep. And that,
Certainly better than what it was.
Yeah, for sure.
well, we have a form in our process, and one of the things that we wanted to do is give staff immediate feedback. So one of the things that we brought with this too, I'll share, is We use a Google form, and the observing administrator fills it out every time they're in the classroom. At the end of the walkthrough, they hit submit. The staff member gets a PDF with feedback from what was seen immediately, and the observing administrator and me get an email with a PDF attached that shows what the feedback and what the data showed from that visit for every time we go into a classroom.
That's
And it
great.
doesn't matter who goes in, so it gives staff immediate feedback. It gives the ability for us to really prioritize areas like, do you see this, do you not see this? Really focusing on the domain 2 and 3 in Danielson, which is the classroom instruction and environment. And so it's been really, I think, productive. This year, I think for us, it's really going to come down, like I think the next layer now is the PLC component, as well as utilizing the instructional coach and what she's going to be able to help support with what we see.
Did the administration feel overwhelmed at all trying to get this many observations in, or is it?
So
Is it sustainable?
It's sustainable. I mean, I will share this, like, we all have to come up with an Act 13 goal every year, which is part of our evaluation, and in meeting with my team this summer and prepping for this year, we thought that this was so valuable that we've made it our goal for this year to continue this practice, and we're gonna make it our Act 13 goal as well, all three of us, because we feel like instruction is the number one thing that we do, and the number one, the priority, regardless of how overwhelming it is, like, you have to make time, and I think that that's been, I wouldn't say overwhelmed, I just think that there's certain times a year where it can be busy, that you have to just make sure you stay, you kind of have a schedule and you kind of follow through with it, but we felt so strongly about it that it's our goal for this coming year again.
That's great.
Great.
So, so this was good. I mean, when we calculated it all out and we looked at the data, I was like, 500 visits. I'm like, wow. Because I didn't even realize it was that high, like where we got to. I mean, we knew we had to get, we knew we wanted to get to our TSI target, but this was good. This was very productive. Which brings us to this year. So in looking at the goals from last year, talking to Dr. Farina and just with where we are, we continue to remain identified for the same subgroup for pretty much the same categories based on keystones and based on the second tier data. We're going to continue our TSI plan from this year with slightly different targets. So the first goal, we took this from 85% for freshmen achieving 96 credits, and we moved it to 95%, which means that we hit 95%, but we were well over our goal, so we upped this by 10%. We said, okay, if we're consistently hitting this, we're going for 95% every year of kids hitting their 6 credits at a minimum. So we're going to continue this goal. We're going to up it to 95%. I think 95% moving forward would be our threshold, because there are certain circumstances that make it sometimes very complicated for students to get to this, but overall, as we saw from our data the last 2 years, really, we're hitting this target. So now it's time to up the ante and kind of like put our money where our mouth is with this and say we're going to get to 95%. So that's goal 1. The attendance goal, I moved that up to 72%. It was at 70% this year. Primarily because the 23-24 data, in comparison to the 25-26 data, is a wide range based on what Future Ready Index had in there when we weren't really tracking it. And I wanted to make sure that we were identifying this and tracking it properly. So we're going to leave that goal in there. We're going to raise it up to 72%, which is a 2% increase. And we're going to kind of focus on, really taking a look at this data a little bit more closely this year for those 2 subgroups. And then for the 12th grade goal, passing all required courses, we were at 85% last year. We moved it to 90%. Primarily, we finished at 94.33 last year. Every student who doesn't make it it drops us a significant percentage. So we felt a 5% increase in what we were targeting is probably feasible and reasonable. Moving it any higher than that, I think it could be a risk that we wouldn't hit the target. And while that's okay, provided that the effort is there, I would rather set us up for success and not overshoot our gains. If we still are talking about this in a year, which hopefully we're not, then we may say 92% if we decide to continue this goal and just kind of move our scale over a little bit more. But I think a 5% increase for this would be good based on our team. And then for our career benchmarks goal, which is next, we're going to leave it at 90%. That's a pretty good target. We were at 99%. I'm very confident that the work in that's going to continue. I have no real concerns about this goal, but
Well, why not 95 then?
well, The state average performance is like 89% or so, or 90, or 91% or something like that for this one. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but I'm trying to stick right around that average performance of the state, and then that way we exceed it. Because this is one of the ones where I'm like, I know we're going to exceed this goal because of how hard they work to do it. So I think let's set the baseline at the state average, and we'll just keep trying to get higher than that. And then lastly, we're leaving the 130 visits per quarter in. We're not upping that. That seems to be a good number. That means every teacher sees us 2 times per quarter. We're rotating it where we're going to do walkthroughs in, like, I start with a group in marking period 1, then I do a different group of teachers in marking period 2, and so then we're going to cycle administrators throughout the year. So that way I see essentially I'll be in every teacher's classroom this year. Jen and Todd will also be in every teacher's classroom this year. And then we'll drive forward with our PLC work with these 2.
And then there'll also be a percentage of the secondary supervisor, so many walkthroughs per month, and then I'll join her, but I'll be K-12. But she will be between 8th grade and the high school. So it may not be that exact number at the high school because she also has 5 programs at the middle school, but that'll be in addition to what you guys are doing.
Yeah, the other thing I think we're going to integrate this year is we're going to be doing a tandem walkthrough model where you take at least 2 administrators, and that even could be a district office person, and you do walkthroughs together and you collect data together, because that way you're going to compare to see what you're looking for and see how similar and different you are as well as a team. Because there are different, priority areas for each administrator based on their experiences and what they look for, from not necessarily from the form standpoint, because we all use the same data form, but essentially, strengths and weaknesses, and just kind of that discussion. It allows us to kind of grow as a team as well.
So you're using the double barrel method?
Yes.
Give me all I got.
I call it the Karate Kid. The Karate Kid method. We'll do
Wax on,
Right.
wax off.
I would imagine by now, teachers are accustomed to walking.
They know that we're coming.
Yeah, okay.
Prior to, I don't know that they were doing 537 visits before last year, but I
It was
think
a little lower.
I think by now they're aware that, and they know that this is happening, because I've went through, the teachers have all seen this TSI plan this week, so they know what I was presenting tonight, so they know that this classroom presence is continuing, and they know what our target areas are too, so.
Peg, were you in here when you said 537 visits?
No, but that's right
Just
on
thought I'd
target.
mention.
A little low, but let's crank that up.
Well, we'll keep doing what we gotta do.
Remember, we want quality, not
And that's the
quantity.
thing, for a first run through, I think it's good. Now we've added a few things to the form to kind of really focus it, and we'll see what kind of data comes out of it this year. So the next steps are, Megan being full-time is great now. We have our full-time MTSS and coordinator and coach. So we already have our intervention center model. Our students were loaded in intervention centers today. They'll be starting right away. We have our targeted Keystone retake group. I'll share this. We had in the ELA Keystone, because that seems to be a priority area for the state, we had 40 students that were within 25 points of proficiency last year. Of the 40, I believe we had 13 or 14 that were 1 point away from proficient. So there is a targeted, between that group, the biology group, and the algebra group, there's a targeted retake group for the Keystones for winter that are in an intervention center in the fall, specifically to prep them to take the winter Keystone, with the hopes that that targeted support and then a retake in 3 months will ultimately get them that 1, 5, 7 points they need. And then from there, we'll continue the intervention model throughout the year for first and second semester. Continue the classroom data collection, work with the coach, work with our TLS counterparts also to support that work. Focus on our neediest groups of students and smart futures. And one of the other areas that I know Megan and I and our admin team have already, and the department chairs have already started discussing is Keystone Trigger coursework related to performance. I know that the biology teachers partnered with a neighboring school district that had pretty strong results. We facilitated that, and they were here this week to spend some time with them just to talk about what they're doing instructionally. That was a different part of PE that wasn't in the PE schedule, but we managed to get that to happen so that our teachers could kind of sit down with them. So that was great as a step. We'll continue to work on course performance and Keystone performance there, and continue to do our best to evolve and prepare students to take the test. And I think that's my last slide. Oh yeah, okay. The last thing to remind you, one more, is reminder that in the May meeting, we discussed the grading framework. So that grading framework has been shared with staff. Our grade books have been configured. So the changes, our grade books now are based on total points, which means that every assignment is worth X amount of points. So if it's a 500-point assignment, or let's say a 100-point assignment for ease of math, a student gets 80 points. Their grade is calculated out of the total amount of points that they earned throughout the entire marking period of all the assignments, based on whatever they earned divided by the total of points available. And there are still categories. There's still some that are informative that technically will fall under assessment as part of our grading framework. So 75% of the grade still has to be assessment based. In that category, and then there's 25% where we're calling learning activities that are technically formative assessments, but they will be the ability for teachers to, pivot in the middle of the lesson, and let's say that a student is, let's say they have to do a quick 3-question check, or they want to do a ticket out and they want to count that for some points for students. Technically that's an assessment, but that could fall under a learning activity depending on, what the lesson's going on. So there are 2 categories now in the grading framework. It's points-based, it's configured. Just wanted to remind everybody of this because my first communication for the WE year is coming out on Sunday night at 6 p.m. and I'll be communicating this framework and the plan for how we're going to be grading at the high school to the families. And I wanted to make sure that everybody on the committee knew what that was going to look like.
Thank you.
We will articulate, the points and how that's going to look, and make sure that a student understands that if they miss enough 5, 10, 20-point assignments now out of the total points, it can change your grade. So that just was a quick reminder on that.
Back to the stress-filled Sunday nights.
Thanks.
Sunday night at 6 newsletters. Yep, they start on Sunday.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Whose line is it anyway? It's due.
The Friday and Sunday edition.
No points for that. So that's it.
Thanks,
All
Frank.
right, well, thank you very much.
Short mouthful.
Does anyone have any other comments, questions, thoughts?
I was just gonna say, it's great to see all the progress that was
Yep.
made and meeting the goals that you set out for the year. And again, this is not something that we wanted to be on or be a part of, but there's definitely good that's come out of it. So
Yep.
we've all got our fingers crossed that we'll be on it for next year.
Yep.
I will not be surprised either way, just because of PE, and I know there's some magical formula that we've asked for explanation on, and we don't really get a great explanation on. So I won't be surprised either way, but I think we control what we can control as best we can, and we continue to prioritize student performance on the keystones, and just really looking at that and making sure our second set of data looks good, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully mid-year we hear something maybe before Christmas. We got it
They like the
2
holiday
days
time.
before Christmas, we got it.
That's
They're like,
because everybody's
"Hey."
trying to hurry up and get their stuff done.
Oh, and by the way, you have to be at this Zoom meeting.
Yeah, here's a Zoom meeting for a
Over
week.
the holidays.
Here's,
Oh, okay.
You're on TSI again.
Board members from the audience, anything you want to?
Sorry if this was already asked of you. Sorry this lady, I was at the pep rally eating a veggie burger. Now I smell like a veggie burger.
That's all right.
I'm heading over there after.
We're trying to get him back.
Yeah, and this is kind of an unfair question, but it's you and me. Do you feel good about where we're at?
I feel good about, okay, I mean, that's a good question. I'll try to give the answer based on data, because I feel like, my personal opinion versus what I think we have data to support are 2 different things. I think the data supports a solid second tier of data, which we have influence over. We have influence over the career artifacts, and we can influence course passing percentages. I don't love our Keystone status right now, but I also know that a lot of districts have seen a drop in scores. I feel like there's a lot to be desired there, in my opinion, with the Keystone exams. Biology doesn't ping us, it's just math and ELA. I think the move to the change in the math sequencing this year at the high school has potential, but we're not gonna see data from that for 2 years. It really comes down to like the efficacy of the curriculum that they put together and the resource, which we're very happy about and the teachers are really excited about, but was in a training with them yesterday with HMH, who's the vendor, and it looks really, really good. I mean, it has a lot of potential. But I think, you know, I'd love to see the Keystones in a better spot. I think that the staff is working very hard, and I think that everybody understands what the priorities are. So yeah, I feel overall, to Peg, Peg, to answer your question, I feel pretty good about the momentum. I do feel like I think we're a little further away from like the expectations that I set, than I'd like to be, but I also like have extremely high expectations. So I know that it's incremental, and I think we've made some really good incremental moves. I think, you know, the continued focus on data and the transparency is a key to what I believe is really effective. Like I said, like I'm going to present the data. I said this to you guys 2 years ago. Even if it's bad data, I think we have to own it, and I think being honest about that is key. You know, if we don't meet a goal, I'm going to say, you know, this is why we didn't meet it, and here's why. You know,
But you'll know why, that's.
Exactly. I do
Well,
think
and that's the difference.
Yeah. I
I
do think
think
it's a-
previously, they had the data but weren't using it as effectively as it seems as though you are at this point.
I mean, I think it's important to set yourself up for success and not overreach what I think you're capable of, but I do think that you need to maintain high expectations. And I think that we have a lot of really great potential that is like brewing. And I see a lot of really great things like ahead, but I think it's going to be a multi-year process just to
Yeah.
kind of like continue to turn us and
That's
like
right.
in that direction a little bit. And I think from my standpoint and just my perspective and experiences, like I'm excited about it. I'm excited to work with all you guys. I mean, it's been great. I think we have a lot of like great things happening, and I think, you know, I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I mean, not to over-exaggerate, but it's a cultural shift here. We're really shifting the way we've practiced in the past, to some extent.
In a good way,
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
just to clarify.
And on another topic area, but kind of connected to this, I hope you'll keep on the table the concept of peer, you know, some people call it peer supervision. I call it hanging out with your co-teacher and, you know, kind of shadowing a co-teacher and, you know, opening classrooms to other teachers to come in because you learn so much from watching your colleagues teach. I hope that's still on the table.
Yeah, we do. It's part of our differentiated supervision model. So when you're not on an observation cycle of being informal, you have the ability to work with like a, you know, it's collaborative mode where you can collaborate with a colleague and do a project together or design a goal that you work on together. So that's part of, you know, so we have a lot of people that do capitalize that on a yearly basis.
And I would also say that you know, now that all buildings are doing walkthroughs, the conversation has pivoted a little to learning walks, which is a little different take where colleagues are doing that work.
Right.
So, you know, I think that's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the instructional rounds model, which is it's more about learning and, you know, not about like, it's not evaluative, it's more about growth. And I think that that's kind of the direction that I really am trying to drive us to with the PLC conversations and things. But yeah, I mean, so to answer your question, I think, you know, the data shows improvement, but I think we got a long way to go, if that makes sense.
Thanks.
Thank
Back
you
to
very
the
much.
pep rally.
Enjoy the pep rally.
Yeah, Raleigh.
The veggie burger is very good, but they have many other items that you'll enjoy.
Oh, that's really good.
I'm excited.
There's an ice cream truck there.
That's your name.
All right, next up,
Okay.
moving right along,
All right.
review of the,
Thanks.
thank you very much. Review of the professional development plan for 25-26.
So as promised, I was asked, and everyone has a copy of it. I will try to share it. There's a couple back there on the back table, but I was, yes, yep. I was asked essentially to share what professional development is being afforded district-wide. I am not going to go over this extensively, but I want you to have it. It's out there. You can see that we have made very specific attempts. Our comprehensive plan calls for professional development. That's the professional development we try to weave in. I do want to say, just because it's in the comprehensive plan, didn't necessarily mean we could fit it in this year. So the comprehensive plan is 3 years. So, if there's something that's missing this year, we try and stagger it to try and get it all in over 3 years. But by date, I put the focus areas and the topics and the goal from the comprehensive plan that it aligned to. I will say I was asked a specific question about Chapter 49. And as a reminder, previously Chapter 49 called for the CSREs. Those were the culturally relevant and sustaining competencies. That was removed. We are not providing that training. We are not providing that training. It was a requirement. It was removed. It is not on the agenda. We can, but we are not this year. And as part of a requirement, we are doing ethics for educators, which is the Model Code of Ethics for Educators. It's on the docket for new teacher induction, but you won't see it on here because I am doing those at each building's faculty meeting with the principal. And so some of the other things that we will do, if we can fit it in around mental health services. And so some of that is specialized to our pupil services staff members, some of it is broad. We did all of our safety and security training. We did AI training. So you'll see there was a lot up front for teachers, and so I'm happy to share. I was asked to share those presentations from our in-service. I will share them with the board in an update. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Special education updates, Dr. Giblin.
Oh, come on. Start talking, Carol.
I'll start talking.
Starting your strong, Andrew.
Andrew, when you get,
You gotta keep it exciting.
I'm going to start talking about when you go to it, can you go to the participation one first, not the LRA?
Got it.
Okay. All right, so if you remember, I think it was last April, when I had shared with you the overall results of the compliance monitoring from 24-25 school year. Knock on wood, overall, we had done very well. There were 6 specific areas that we needed to correct. All were corrected, all were submitted to the Bureau of Special Education early June. All were rectified, they were removed, so it was 100% good there. If you also remember, I had shared with you, we coming out of the compliance monitoring, which we knew early on because of when they pulled the data. And so they were looking at 22-23, that those results on our SPP, which is basically our special education report card that comes out every year. It comes out in May, and it will talk, there's a number of indicators it talks about. This is indicator 3, the first one that I'm going to talk about. So out of the, I believe, I actually have it here, the improvement plans, it was 2, 4, 6, 8. There was 9 areas that they looked at where it's literally you will need an improvement plan if you did not meet the target score for the state on the year that they looked at, which was 22-23. 2 of the areas are areas that we needed to have develop improvement plans, and I shared that with you. They were due July 12th. They were completed. That's what I'm briefly sharing with you here. I'll talk about the 2 areas briefly. They were submitted July 12th. They were approved. They can, you can work on those areas for up to 3 years. Typically, our goal is to remove them yesterday, but at times it is the results of what we're looking at. The reason I asked Andrea to jump to this one, this is participation in PSSA and CASA and Keystone. Now, when I say, it's important to note when I say participation, this is not how the students did or how they performed. This is literally our students in grades 4, in grades 8, and grades 11 that take the assessment. Taking the assessment, which I have found out, is considered to have taken the assessment if a student in 4th grade who, and this is all about special education students, if they take the assessment, they complete question 1 and shade it in, that is considered a complete assessment as far as the Bureau of Special Education. As the reason again, as I asked her to bring this up is because Frank was talking about specifically Keystones and our parents who opt out. In the end, the results here for this, parents have the final say and can determine my child's not going to take it. They can opt them out based on such and such a reason. And in the end, the district doesn't necessarily have any say in that, which is absolutely fine. It's the parents' prerogative to make that determination. My point is, the expectation at these 3 grade levels is that in each of these assessments annually, 95% of student participation for students with disabilities is expected. That's the target rate. On the year that they did look at where we came out with the improvement, they looked at grades 4, and they looked at ELA, and they looked at math in those areas, and the district was at, actually I'm not going to get into it, they achieved the percentages in grades 4, in grades 11 for Keystones, and again, this was 22-23 that they looked at for compliance monitoring over the past year. Grade 11 was 100% for ELA participation. Math, they were 97.9%. In grade 8, we did not make the achievement of 95% participation of students with disabilities. We were down at 86% and 91%. So basically, based on those results, that automatically there is an improvement plan. So you need to still look at things. We understand Indiana parent can make the decision, and a lot of these different steps are plans for that to really go through. I shared really briefly at our retreat, but over the next several months during our admin meetings, the goal is to kind of share with the principals, you know, why is this actually important for our kids to at least try and to participate. Again, we know a parent can make a decision. So there's a lot of steps here where I actually say, and I've already collaborated very briefly, but with my 2 friends over here from curriculum instruction, just because of taking the assessments, I'll be working with them on just anything and everything for communication provided to parents for the kids taking the assessments. Last year, because I knew this was coming, we had on all of our special education agendas, talk to our special ed teachers, because when you go into the IEP, there is a section in the IEP, it literally talks about statewide assessments. That's the time where I think we want our teachers to speak more on this. Talk to the parents. And in the end, we know a parent can make a decision, but if we don't bring it to the forefront and say, you know, it would be really great if they could even just try. If they frustrate, you know, it's not a problem, we can, you know, we can stop the assessment, et cetera, et cetera. But really on our teacher's side, and then in those meetings, the building principal is there, sometimes there might be a supervisor or myself, but opening that and bringing that to the forefront is something we're trying to push for. And then even to the point, I think one of the action steps on here is for me, for the special education students, in the end, we know the result is that the principal has to meet with the parent and then sign off on all of those things. I'm totally fine with going with the principal, with Karen Haney at 8th grade, when they're meeting with parents for kids with disabilities, maybe talk a little more about it, and what we can do is see where we got with it. So it's all the steps to put in place to improve participation, and then go from there. So that's this improvement plan. I didn't really go through all of literally the steps, but there's certain steps.
Big picture's always good. Big picture's
Okay. Any questions?
If I could add an editorial comment,
Carol, stop.
I think oftentimes there is, you know, depending on the community or district, you know, there are people out there advising to not participate. That does have detrimental impact to the data for the district. It always will. It always will, and so, you know, we try to tell families, while we honor your and respect your right, please know that the damage happens to the district and how the state evaluates us.
And that's got to be a really hard concept to get across, I would think.
I mean, and there's a couple of things, like it's frustrating, I've spoken with our bureau advisor that we've been working with a number of years. She understands, you know, like, I mean, as this is one of the areas to improve, and I think we should, like, we would like those results.
Sure.
But in the end, it's not as if the school district has 100%.
As long as parents are afforded the opportunity to opt out, they will opt out.
Sure. Right.
So that's just the
How it
end.
is.
So, you know, the answer may be the state should maybe not think participation is key. But, all right, sorry, you were on LRE.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I do have one question.
Yes.
You might not have this answer, that's okay. But how many people have to opt out in order for us to miss the target?
Well,
Is
so if we're looking at, so it's, let's say we look at grade 4, they look at grade 4 ELA.
Yep.
They look at grade 4 math, they're completely separate. So any students in 4th grade with a disability, so let's say it was 50 students that are in 4th grade, we look at those, any of those students, we had 10 students out of the 40, if they opt out in math, they're opting out. which
But you
kind
don't
of-
know the actual number.
Right.
No, you
Yeah.
can't necessarily until then when it comes up, but it's gonna be based on those parents, and they literally will look at that grade level, and, if they opt out.
I was just curious if
Yeah.
like two parents or two parents.
It's probably quasi, it'd
opted
be
out.
under 95%.
Right, would that?
It's a similar metric.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's hard
Yeah.
because they will look at each one separately, like, I did actually go back and I looked already at my 23, 24. 22, 23 was very good compared to the 23, 24 results. What I can just share briefly was that we did not meet the target rate in grade 4, grade 8, grade 11 in ELA or math in any of them. The year before, we made it in all except grade 8, and that's all based on the participation rate, so.
And we did see a year
That's interesting.
where there was a heavy push for parents to leverage that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll go with this and I'll end it, and then you can, go ahead.
Sorry, forgive my ignorance. Why would parents not, because of stress on the child, or is it something else?
So there, I do think sometimes, and Mrs. Bass may be able to share, she has had the opportunity to meet with lots of families who opt out. I think sometimes it's a data sharing. There's this perception that the information is being used elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've encountered others, but those are the ones that have sort of come to the forefront.
I can imagine it could be political.
Well,
too.
the only acceptable opt-out in the state of Pennsylvania is for religious reasons. So we very rarely understand the true meaning if it's not religious underneath, so.
Yeah.
But they can just.
And it's not my place to ask, right?
Right.
So,
For sure, yeah, I understand. It just seems like. what
We
are
have heard
doing?
those
You know what I
concerns
mean?
about
Like, if the
privacy.
goal is to educate all of our students, like,
How
you know,
can you
it
not
just seems,
put the measure?
I remember the test, I remember them being stressful, I remember the schedule
Yeah.
changes,
Yeah.
I remember, so I was like, it's a lot of stress, especially for special needs students. I can see why they look, this is very stressful for my child.
Yeah, and some of the
Understand that,
kiddos,
but-
yeah.
Yeah, so that I don't understand why it would be so, I mean, like with everything else.
I mean, I think the goal is always to make people understand it's actually an assessment of the school program,
Correct, yes.
not of the child. And,
Yes,
you know,
that's what I mean.
I don't,
And I'm, with everything
Yeah.
else, I mean, the school board and teachers I've listened to seem to do a very great job of demonstrating that.
yeah.
People are gonna think what they want, I guess.
We're in the age of buffet education.
Yeah,
Bring your plate around and pick and choose.
yeah, for sure.
It's everywhere.
I have a kindergartner and a first grader, so this is, I'm just trying to stay informed from the beginning. Could you talk just a little bit about what these implications are, other than obviously we don't have accurate information as to how our district is really doing? What are some of the other implications? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think from the perspective of subgroup data, it will continue to impact. I mean, if it were regular ed students, which I do think we have
Yeah.
had years.
I know a few
So,
families and I
if
don't
it's-
touch it, and I'm like, oh, okay.
if a certain percentage opt out, those opt-outs count as non-proficient students,
Yes.
basically. That's the way
Okay.
that they're measured into it.
Right.
So Mr. Flanagan sat here and did a very long presentation, and we've done great things at the high school, but it's because we're on TSI. And so every year that we're on TSI, that in-depth work, and I think it would be happening anyway, but the degree to which the state is asking for reporting and things, if we have more schools that fall under TSI, you'll see more of those presentations and some things that are attached to like a low report card grade for per diem.
So it's not relative to the amount of students, like, you're not, it's not counted, those students are then counted as non-proficient.
Correct. Yeah.
I did not realize that.
And the teachers get a score now based on both achievement and growth of their students in PSSA and Keystone scoring. And so those teachers are working really hard, all of our teachers do.
Right.
And so that sometimes comes up as a skewed result because of it.
Of course, and that's. completely not our
And
fault.
most of the teachers, when they opt out, or most of the parents say, I don't want this to reflect poorly on my teacher, and, yeah, it does.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But it's also
Yeah.
along with, so if you think of PASA, and PASA is given to our students that typically have an intellectual disability. So the level of testing is, yeah, it's commensurate with where, they're expected to be. So it's not like we're asking them to frustrate and take the SSA.
Yeah, for sure, okay.
And IEPs, account for accommodations throughout this testing, right? Like, there's not that.
Right. What they've done with PSSA over the years, there used to be a PSSA modified exam for many students with IEPs, but over the years, they took those accommodations and put them on all of them, which are more white space. And now that it's online, everything is available to every student. You can have it, in some instances, you can have certain things read. There are calculator tools on there. So basically, anything that anyone would need is available for them to take the test. It's great, yeah. Those that truly can't would take the PASA exam,
Okay.
because that's a better representation of their ability and growth and achievement.
But I think that's been the challenge. The state uses it for a whole host of reasons, but allows opt-out. So, there's a little bit of a conflict of interest in that.
Right.
All right, Carol, LRE.
Last one, sorry. This one is, when we talk about LRE, there's 3 areas that we look at. One is we'll call them typically our itinerant level students. These are our 80% or more out in the general education classroom. And then we have another level between 40 and 80% of our students. And those students, there's 3 areas they look at for this in K-5. And we continue to reach that goal. But the other area that they look at, which I did share in the spring, is other settings, or these are our students placed out of district. And what they're looking at is our special education students placed out of district. And at times, obviously, these could be students based on severity of disability, but to the level there may be some concerns, behaviorally, as well as some other areas. And then students that might have a certain disability, perhaps an emotional disturbance, and those students, based on their least restrictive environment, has been determined it's not within our high school or our middle school, it is to be placed out of district. But what happens here is, the expectation for the target here is for all of our kids to, or the level of that to be, is 5.1%. I can pull that up there. But the percentage of our kids to be placed out of district for students with disabilities. We have not achieved that at that level when they looked at that percentage of the school year. The one thing I did say in the spring, and I think it's always important here in Upper Perk, I'll say we're not in North Penn, we're not a Central Bucks, we're not any of those larger school districts. And I would say probably 100% of those districts, they're every single type of special education programming, life skills support, like they're going to have those programs K to 12, likely because they have the number of special ed students there. We have about 16% of our students are special education, about 500 students. So we've always said you must be able to sustain those types of programs to offer them K to 12. So some of those programs we do not offer at our K to 5 level. We do not offer life skills support. We don't offer an MDS program K to 5 because of that continuum and the need to be able to support those students. Plus, when I consider them babies at that level, we still want our students who may be identified in intellectual disability, we need to get all the interventions they can, but we need them to be with typical peers as well. So this is based on literally that. So we'll continue to work. The only thing I will add a lot of different areas, and this will be shared with our teachers as well as, you know, our administrators, because these are our kids that when we get to the point and we make a determination, whether it's a policy violation, if they're special education, that's a number, you know, or numbers of students that would be included in these figures. So just a couple of different areas that we'll look at. There's a number of these different things we'll work with our teachers on parts of the IEP that determine that LRE or least restrictive environment.
Thank you. I was going to
I
say,
know,
I was going to say, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
We were doing a PD yesterday with our high school teachers, all high school staff, and I started talking because my head just kind of got away, and we were talking about, oh, you know, the student may have an FBA and the student might have a PBSP, and literally within 30 seconds, our high school teacher raised her hand. She was like, can you tell me what a PBSP? And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, so like we backed up, but so I apologize for that. But yeah, we have a number of things here. One thing I will say, and we've had this on before as well, Andrea and myself, when we look at this, is looking at a type of program, I don't want to call it an alternative setting within our school district, but that type of a location or an area where some of our students that may be normally placed out of district, whether it's policy, whether it's a need, whether it's behavior, whatever the reason, if we have a type of a program, an alternative school setting within our district, obviously that would not be part of these numbers. They would be our students, they would be here in our school, et cetera. So that is one thing for us to look at. I think I listed that as year 2 and 3. And we've talked about this obviously.
So we've been talking about it for 10 years, in full disclosure. And I think it comes down to put a high quality alternative program is an investment in lots of staff in order for it to be well run and good for kids. And so while, you know, and that 5.1% is not to exceed. So as soon as the district moves more than 5.1% of their student body, who we feel we can't satisfactorily program for, they're going to fine against us. And you know, we have to make that active conscious about, we can put something together, but is it good for kids? And Carol and I were both ES teachers. And so we know what good, high quality programs look like, and it costs a lot of money. And so, and how is it sustainable for a district like us? And so, you know, we have the responsibility to investigate it, but we also have the responsibility to make the recommendation that is responsible to kids, fiscally responsible, and quite frankly to the school community, because sometimes those programs can be challenging to house. And so, you know, we'll look into it. And you know, but the recommendation.
She's right as far as the challenging. You know, we worked with a neighbor school district some years ago and basically referring to it as an alternative school program. 4 of our local, Penridge, Palisades, Quakertown, us, participated in it. But what I will say is the one district that housed it, they're the ones that are 24/7 dealing with, as Andrew's talking about, that higher level of student behavior. You know, if there's a need to call the police, if so there's a lot of things I think that come into play.
One question here, and I probably should know the answer to this. In the budget that has not yet passed in the state, is there any equity built in there for special ed funding?
Yeah.
Because you know, the question that you were talking about, these schools that have, you know, like Central Bucks and whatnot, that have more services.
Right.
Is there any equity for special ed in rural areas that would help us? Okay.
But I don't even know if that would impact us in that way, because we still would have to look at, even if they're supporting us financially, we still have to look at the ability to maintain these over years. We're not going to open a program for 2 years and then we can't sustain it when we hired a teacher, right? So no matter what they would offer us, we still have to make sure that.
It wouldn't be enough, and we don't know that it would not go away with the next administration.
Yeah, and it's tough with that because of early intervention students. We don't have all of that information necessarily. We'll get our kids that are going to come to kindergarten next year. We'll know that by We'll have probably all that information by December of this year, but that doesn't necessarily help us, you know, for 3 years or.
Peg, did you have a question?
At the risk of being the wet blanket in the room, and because of my passion for ed law and the spaces I still work in education, I think it's important that not only everybody at that table, but the entire school board is aware of a recent Supreme Court decision, which is going to as you know, Carol, greatly affect special ed everywhere. And we've got to be on top of this stuff. So I don't know, whatever it takes, if you have to beat principals over the head.
Okay, you said that. I'm going to remember you saying that because I need that help.
I know how it works. I've been in those shoes. And I know somehow, I get it, right? But if you have to scare them with this court case and this court decision,
Yeah.
this is going to be crazy for all public schools. It opens the floodgate for lawsuits.
As much as we say document, because I was telling Andrea she was working on that piece too. Like I followed up with our team. And it is that document, nonstop in the area, special ed, I mean, everywhere. But every single thing that we do, we've got to show what we're doing. And if we don't, you know, if it's not written down, nothing.
It never happened.
It never happened.
And
That's
so,
the biggest thing.
Andrea, I don't know if it's going to take bringing Kyle in to sit down in front of the principals. I've got, you know, plenty of handouts you can have, but I was sitting with a special ed attorney a couple weeks ago in Indianapolis at one of my meetings, and she's a pretty high-powered attorney in Houston, and she said, this is going to be insane. This is absolutely going to be insane. So whatever you need, and I can't speak for the rest of the board, but whatever you need from me, let me know. This is serious stuff. It's a whole, we're in a whole new normal now, you know, and things are going to keep evolving. I mean, just wait till vouchers kick in. I mean, get ready. It's coming, folks. The whole world of public ed is going on its ear.
Don't be
You know, and again, I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but
So much for not being the wet blanket.
you know, it's reality. We're going to have to be ready for the change, and we're either going to adapt or.
We're either going to capitulate like the universities are doing, or we're going to fight this.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it is what it is.
And, you know, I don't know how we can fight it, but.
Put on your battle gear, you know? And while I'm on this fun wagon, you know, I'm gonna say to Kim and Alyssa, the same thing with that the Mahmoud Taylor case that was decided. And the religious opt-out. And, you know, do we notify parents ahead of time that in a classroom, you know, a teacher's gonna read a book with the alphabet letters that some people don't like? You know, it's like, here we go.
So I think that, you know, and as it relates to that, you know, the Upper Perkiomen School District has and will always have policies that allow parent inspection and exemption. We have asked all teachers to have a very specific syllabus that isn't like an infographic, but it provides detail, both of the content and the resources that are being used in the class. I have strongly advised principals that teachers should be sending those out and seeking affirmation of review from families to put them on notice of their rights, right? And that's the important part. And so we have always and will always honor parents' right to inspect and request exemption. I have said it for years here. No one has ever denied you those rights, but you do have to initiate them. And so that's the trick, but, you know, as it relates to that course, I think, you know, we need to beef up course syllabi. I think we do. I think parents need to be given the information they need in order to be able to make the decision whether they are going to inspect. But remember, it's just not, I'm calling and saying, I don't want my kid to do this. There are actually procedures very, very clearly spelled out in our policies. And as the school board, my recommendation is always to follow our own policies.
You gotta
And
know
so-
policy, you gotta know policy.
So, I'm happy to report, we've never denied an objection or an exemption request that has followed the policy.
Makes sense.
And we won't,
Yeah.
because you charge myself and our directors and our building principals to follow policy, and they will.
Sorry, Carol, I ripped into your time,
Yeah.
and I do have one more court case I need to bring to your attention, but I'll wait till the end.
Delightful.
Great.
All right.
Yeah, we got something
Student
important.
information system transition update.
So Jim and I and Sharon are going to tag team this just to set it up for context. As a reminder for the board and community, our Skyward system is set to sunset in 2028, December, very convenient, mid-year, makes sense. And so we have been on the pursuit of selecting and recommending a new SIS, a student information system. And so I'll share just a little bit of the fun stuff in that I have shared with the board. I love surveys, everybody around here knows that. But we are not necessarily the end users that feel this the most. And I mean, I'm not a teacher, I'm not in the student side of Skyward for my job, really, unless I'm looking up an address. And so we thought it best to collect some feedback from every staff member, regardless of their role, to understand what we should be looking for. And so we aren't going to go over this. We distilled this data in order to establish a series of priority items that we needed to seek out, with multiple vendors. I'll put it in the board update and you'll be able to do it. And so we needed a place to start. And so that was about the extent to which I could contribute to the decision on the technical side. But we started with, what do the people we work with need as it relates to a student information system? We know what they didn't like, at least we thought we did, because they don't mind telling us repeatedly. And so, but we really needed to know from every group what that looks like. And this is just from the perspective of the student side. This is not the business side. So I want to make sure that's really clear. Those business people, they have a whole different series of needs, although they were surveyed. And so what we are going to talk about, Jim and Sharon, about tonight is the process. I was along with them, but they really led the charge. And you tell me how you want to tackle what I'm going to put up on the tablet.
Let me add to that a little bit and create some buffer out the end. So what Dr. Farina said is absolutely correct. That survey was then culled, and I want to give a plug for AI. She did it with AI, and she came up with a really fantastic set of requirements to Skyward, right? So we're here for two reasons. The main reason is it's going to sunset. The current product's going to sunset in 2020. And I think we've shared some of this in the past. The second reason, which it's not really a reason, it's more kind of glad to be pushed there because there's a lot of angst with the current product. So we needed to evaluate the new cumulative product against the deficiencies and the gaps. That was the first stage of what happened. I would say, to Skyward's credit, they did pretty well there, right? But two main things came out of that survey reflection, which was, one, a lot of concern for their scheduling capabilities and scheduling of classes and future scheduling and that kind of stuff. And overwhelmingly support, hands-on support, the ability to get support, and better than just a phone call and Zoom once in a while and those kind of things. We kept going back and forth as a team with Skyward, talked about that, asked them to hear us on that. That was not necessarily reflective of their model. They believe in their model of implementation being more web-based and video-based and so forth, to the point where they just said, we really believe in that, and we've proven that. And we even talked to a school district that went well with and some that didn't go so well with. Our message was, our climate right now, we don't think can sustain that, can handle moving forward and create a positive flow. With the new one, we said, give us more hours, and they still hesitated. That sent us down the road to open, right, and really open the door for us to say, we tried with the incumbent. That's, I think I've had this discussion even with you, Melanie, that they're typically the path of least resistance, just like the business software that you might use, is to try to stay with the incumbent. But we're feeling like we're going to let down the organization, and once we did that, that opened the door to looking at Power School and Infinite Campus. They were the two other big players in the market, having demos with them, and really getting a lot of feedback that people were more comfortable with the scheduling side. And there's a different model of support available through them. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. And basically that we'll talk more detail of it, but that model comes from the opportunity to either contract with an IU for everything, or contract with corporate directly and get support from them, or, and this is where we're going to head with you, I'm giving you the answer before we get there, contract with corporate and add on some IU support for that hands-on and have the best of both worlds. I will not kid you that it doesn't come with a bit of a cost if you need to digest that, but we really believe we're going to get a better product, we're going to have happier users, we're going to get much better support, we're going to take pressure off the administrative side of managing the system and so forth, right? Fair enough? So Andrea, Dr. Freer, if you would, can you do me a favor and just pop down to line 13? Because the rest is kind of a mix, and I don't want to bore you with all the details, but there's line 13. And if we go across, line 13 is Sharon did a really good job. This was not easy, all the going back and forth and trying to cull, because the next thing I'm going to try to explain to you is there are different models to do this, right? So you can see that in the first year, the Skyward cumulative cost would be technically X. That's just basically implementation, but the majority of that was going to be, video training and all kinds of, I shouldn't say the majority, but a piece of that was all going to be on our own, train the trainer, the whole 9 yards, right? So then, and I know it's kind of hard when you scrunch, but we'll go across. As we looked at Power School corporate, and we looked at 2 IUs, and there is some disparity here.
Oh, jeez.
Yep, you're good. If you probably go to 90%, that works. That's pretty good. So now you come down, and here's what happened. We learned a lot from the IUs. There are 2 major IUs that we have relationships with that support this, CLIU and MCIU. Carbon Lehigh. They both have the opportunity to host it, and they both have different ways to sell it and package it. But the major difference, for your benefit, is how they license it. The IU is licensed with a perpetual license, and coming out of the private sector, I typically feel like you don't see that much anymore. So perpetual means I'm giving you the license, you own it from forever. You could stop paying maintenance and kind of keep using the product. And subscription is I'm paying for it every year.
Right.
And sometimes they're very close, and then I find in the education sector they're closer than they are in the private sector. I'm amazed at the ability to buy SaaS products, software as a service products for education at the price levels that we see. It's a good thing. Well, that's kind of what Power School did here. Power School wanted to maintain control, even though they made deals years ago with the IUs. The IUs are selling this perpetual thing at certain levels, at capped levels, but they only sell, and this is hard, I know it's a lot, they only sell the basic core SIS. So the package that a PERC needs, and many other schools need, add on other products, like forms and reporting and a couple other things like that. Enrollment is extra, right? So the numbers that you see on the board relate to if we buy it and implement in the first year with corporate, that comes as a package, and it's really, really discounted to where these 2 IUs said to us, we see what they're doing, you're not the first ones to tell us this, we can't compete with that. The good news is they don't want to. they want to be in the sport. They host and sell the licensing and do all that other stuff, because years ago, it was a good model for some of their, districts that they were taking care of for 10 years or 15 years in the past. So they've openly said to us, if you get a sweet deal from corporate, we believe you should take it and go with it. Now, my logical brain comes on and says, okay, but we have to be careful, because subscription licensing can compile
Murder it,
and
yeah.
murder it. So what we've done is we talked to Power School, and I think we want to go back to the well, because I'm going to be honest, we're trying to prepare this for a final version of this to go out on the Friday update for the whole board, and then to talk, to have it out on the Friday update, have any questions come back and forth a little bit if there are any, and try to get it on the agenda. And the reason is, if we want to make a real stab at this, we need to commit in one way or another. So with all that said, you can tell where the numbers ride. For whatever reason, and the way they package everything, the costing looks to you on this list, and is, especially in the first year, the best with Power School corporate. You get a little bit more equal as you go down into the secondary years. And I'd like to go back, because Sharon noted today that in the first year, there's some discounts here of like 53%, and then they change to 25%, plus, every software company escalates by.
Sort of like athletic training.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
So one of the things we did do, though, is try to already step out and say, okay, everybody, if we're going to go this way, we need to try to look at locked-in pricing for 5 years, because we're afraid with the subscription model that we get to the end of year 3, and then all of a sudden it's like really a
My
rise.
QuickBooks just doubled, so
So,
yeah, I get it.
yeah, same, you get
Exactly, I
it.
get
So
it.
the good news is that this Power School corporate came back and said, we'll do that, we'll give you a 5-year, and because you're going to commit to a 5-year, we'll lower that percentage rates every year to 4% from 5%, right? So there was a win there. But I still would like to look at these other natural discounts that they had built into it. Sharon and I are going to do that, right?
And we weren't hesitant about a 5-year plan because it's such a bear of a project that
Right.
takes about 10 months to implement, that there's no chance of wanting to change anything in 5
Yeah,
years.
you're
So
going to get into it, you're going
comfortable
to
with that.
train, you're going to ride. It took us a year and a half to figure out where we're going on this one, right? So we feel that's the safe thing to do, okay? Although nobody knows where monies are going and all that, right? But you need assist to run your school.
Yep.
It's one of the last things you
Right.
can probably cut, right? So with all that said, and Sharon, just correct me if I'm wrong, it looks and is a very fiscally responsible way to go. It's still more than Skyward, okay? But I want you to realize we're also recommending that we should add in that support. So the Power School column, when you look at year 2, for example, against cumulative, is 41, but we're recommending somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 in year 2 of support from the IUs for them to come right here, or us to send our people right to them when we have new hires and all that kind of stuff.
That makes sense.
So the MCIU is given a really sweet deal on that. CLIU's got a wider variety of customer base. We're still comparing those apples to apples. So we want to say to you that it would be, in the first year, it would be $22,449 plus maybe about $5,000 to $6,000 worth of support.
Gotcha.
Right.
From them, so
But we're going to
yeah.
come back to you with that
That's
extra
got it.
support. What we're asking the board and you guys to help us recommend is committing to the first year with corporate and knowing there's going to be a bit of an adder to that, right? And we are going to do everything we can to talk about these discounts and kind of keep that down. If we can't change these numbers, the differentials in year 2, 3, and 4 are about somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000 more than we pay on the Skyward side.
Right.
So we realize that that's fiscally more, but we also realize we're getting a lot for that. That, hopefully includes the extra support we get,
And real support, not just
real
videos
support,
and-
not struggle.
Right.
We're going to change hopefully the attitude of the user base, because they're going to be more involved with the product and the training and all that kind of stuff. So-
Then CIU support gives you a real person that
that lives in the area and knows the names of the districts around you and knows your district. And so we feel that's the best of both worlds because we're getting the really, really awesome pricing from corporate that, like I said, the IUs basically said, we can't do this. If they're giving you that, go for it. So we're getting the great pricing on the actual product, but then we're also getting the ability to buy in blocks of hours for the IU support. And I mean, just to reiterate, for people who don't know what the student information system is, unlike a lot of other pieces of software, it literally affects every single facet of the educational process. So whether you're a psychologist or a speech therapist and you're looking up something for a student, if you're an attendance secretary, if you're a principal who's doing scheduling, whoever you are, a teacher in a grade book, it affects discipline, attendance, grading, transcripts, report cards, the parent portal, every single facet of our educational system.
That's a
So,
good point, Sharon.
yeah, it's
So
a bear
in your
of a
world,
product.
It's your ERP for students.
Right.
And then there's
Right.
the business piece that makes up the rest of the.
I was going to ask you if that was my question, is that,
None of that's here yet.
none of it's here yet?
And Drew has a crew that's looking, they might
Okay.
take a different direction, you know?
Okay, that was my
Because
question.
Power School doesn't necessarily run that space.
So we were actually fortunate in that our, unlike some neighboring school districts, we did not ever merge our system
Right.
way back when. So we have, even though both products are by Skyward, we have a separate student system and a business system. They stand alone. So with them both sunsetting, we have the ability to focus on migrating one at a time, as opposed to districts who merged have to go all in on both of them at the same time.
At the same time, and that's, so we got lucky
Right.
there, however, we inherited
Right.
that, right,
So
Sharon?
we'll be, Drew will be coming back to you with a similar conversation when it's their turn.
And there's different pricing for that
Right.
that is not included here for that
Totally
portion
different.
and so forth.
Yeah.
So one last thing, I'll let Andrea chime in. I wanted to,
The IUs do not offer business support, so that is something that the IUs focus on the student side of the Power School product. Right, so even though our HR right now currently uses some Power School products, the IU focuses on the student side, on the educational parts of the software.
yeah, so the last thing I'll say is the reason it escalates, you know, if you were to say, well, just pick an IU for everything, it's because there's 2 or 3 products that we need on top of that we'll be paying a subscription license for every year
Right.
on top of it.
Right.
So it says, they say, we don't have the cost model, but we believe we have the cost model to support you. And the last thing I'll say is, one of the really important components of this is PIMS. Does everyone know what PIMS is? So, right? And that's, you know, Amy Hartzell's world and Andrew's world. The IUs get state reporting
Child
for
care.
Pennsylvania. And they admit right out of the gate, like, you're going to be better with that support coming from a local. You know, corporate's been honest with what they can do. They feel they're better at the implementation. I believe that.
That's good.
You have them to throttle.
Transparency?
Yeah, so.
But you also
it's
have-
It's all going to be rough and a challenge, but, you
Yeah.
know, so.
You also have a lot more districts in Pennsylvania using Power School, which gives you more push when something with state reporting might come out very last minute. And if you have only a few districts in Pennsylvania who are using a product, you don't get as much pull with the company to make changes as if they say, you know, we've got all of MCIU, CLIU, our corporate customers, all these people need this change. And so there's power in numbers.
Yeah, so I'll tailor that and we'll let Andrea, you had a point unless one of us made it, but in the center, you can see Power School has all those players directly. The combination of everybody you see there is Power School in this area, which
Right.
is much bigger than Skyward. The ones on the right are directly MCIU, and the ones on the left are directly DAC, and I don't think that's reflected, but there's a lot of interaction. Power School has many, many more customers, but they're just in a wider zone.
Correct. And
Yeah,
Carbon
so-
Lehigh has a much bigger
Carbon
presence
Lehigh.
in the Bucks County and Lehigh Valley. Bucks County and Lehigh Valley.
So we've already reached out, you know, to a local school, and they were like, we're right there with you. We just did it with corporate. We wish we had leaned on an IU more. That was their main, you know, we heard that. So I think we're going to have a lot of partnership in this as well if we have to reach those schools.
Also, what both the IUs and corporate everyone has told us across the board, no matter where they're from, is people don't leave Power School. I mean, a lot of them are saying, like, we know people who have been 15, 20-year customers. So you may tweak things a little bit, add or remove a module, change your service, but they don't leave Power School once they go with it. So we like that. What?
Unless they sunset.
Right.
Andrew, I know you had
They
something.
probably won't, right.
I'm sorry, I have to do band rehearsal, but,
Red hand.
and we're in the New
Great shirt.
Conshohocken Park if you want a free concert tonight.
Yeah.
But real quick.
Beautiful
will-
life for it.
Will the recommendation for the product we want come from this committee?
So,
Yeah,
does
I
it
mean,
come
we would
from
be
finance?
looking, so that's a good question. So the notion was that this committee would make a recommendation to allow it to be on, because it really is the student educational side. Obviously, it has fiscal implications.
We're gonna
Like-
share it
Like
out.
most things that come out of this committee, spend lots of money on curriculum resources. I think that the thought was yes.
Okay.
We would be asking this committee to move it on to the board agenda, but we would be adding board update information, all of it.
What's
for
the
everybody.
timeline?
So Jim,
So,
for the board update tomorrow, what are you going to include?
so I'm going to include this
That.
spreadsheet,
Okay.
okay? We'll try to work out whether these discounts are correct,
Okay.
correct that. This sheet and probably Andrea's either a summation of this or this and, written, I'm going to write a little bit of a summary of what we just said. And an explanation of what does this really mean financially. In the first year, we had $16,000 allotted to the budget. So we're saying it might be, it might be 10 to 12, it might be 10 to 15, 12 to 15,000 more than that.
See, I don't like hearing that.
Right, I know you do.
So,
I know you
so
do.
my
And then-
point is,
And then the next year,
and
so.
this is just me, I'm one board member, right?
I know.
That's a big deal. And so my question to you is, what can we reduce or give up
So-
to offset?
So I can tell you that we've been lucky, didn't expect it, but at least in the IT budget, that's already happened through some of the purchases that we made and volume and pricing being better,
Okay.
that Drew could speak to. Yes, we've identified this amount of
Great.
money that was not spent already in another place.
Okay.
And we
we'll-
knew that would be a concern.
Again, we need
and
to see those
totally knew
numbers.
That's what we're
right?
trying to get out of the
Okay.
table.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So I do want to add a little bit to why, what is the timeline? And I think that's a really good question, because the hope is to put it on the agenda next week. Because what we know is that to really.
Put what on the agenda next week?
Approving Power School.
Approving the Power School.
Go
Next week?
At the latest, it would be.
We need an October 1st go-live date.
Correct.
We want to start the timeline.
That-
That's what we
it
forgot
takes
to.
so
We had-
many months.
We actually had a model
It's a
timeline.
10-month project.
Yeah,
At
so
least a
we
10.
actually had a model timeline that we should have brought up here too, that starts
Yeah.
in October if we want to hit this thing, get it out of the way so we can do the financial side.
Yeah, and I think that the challenge is that, the implementation takes so long.
Listen.
And what happened with Skyward way back in 2016 was, there was no training afforded to people.
Right.
I really would like to see that timeline though, because that is, I do software implementation for a living, and so I am familiar with the needs. However,
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to
that's a
train.
short, you're asking in a short amount of time to make a decision on something. We need the timeline, like Pike said, we need the money.
Yeah.
We need.
Yeah, so I know it feels that way, but our end game in previous, board updates and stuff talked about Skyward and us.
Absolutely.
And us starting in October as well.
Yeah.
So I know it feels that way because we're asking for a higher price, but the timeline is still the same.
The timeline is the same across products, because
And-
like I said, it touches every single facet, and so, you have to talk about too, when do you need things? Like, you need to have future scheduling moved over and trained by the turn of the semester at the end of January. You need to have your enrollment migrated and trained, ready for kindergarten, early intervention kindergarten, so it's,
And the challenge for us is the people who need trained are also working full-time jobs here.
Correct,
So the
right.
time to train them, we don't have all of this open time, so we have to
Right.
pull them from their current work in order to get them trained,
Right.
and those dates are out of reach.
Yeah.
Because Emily, that's definitely something different. The corporate world, like I know that from being there, that sometimes you have a dedicated project manager or you can shift responsibilities. And so, I mean, we're doing this in addition to running a school district.
Right.
I mean, I
That's a
think.
good point.
Right, so we need the time, and like Andrea said, could they offer us something a little bit shorter? Maybe, but we need to be sure that this is a successful implementation and that we set up every single user to be successful.
Sure.
So typically, you know, we would have to look at the spring in order to redesign some of our professional development schedule to make sure teachers got the training that they needed. That did not happen, and when you look, they were irate, and reasonably so,
Right.
reasonably so. I think we probably could do the September, the first board meeting
Yeah,
in
that was our next
September.
option.
Yeah.
And that would.
Yeah, I would just like a little bit more of a look. You're absolutely right, this isn't like it's brand new information that we're moving from
Yeah,
Skyward.
and I
Certainly not.
totally get where
Right.
you're.
We were being ambitious, and then, you
Yeah,
know, Alan's
yeah.
like, let's try to get it on, but if it has to wait till September, it waits till
I
September.
mean, only because I want to see all the things that you said you're going
No
to
problem.
Yep.
gather.
We'll get that out to
I
you.
think the whole board should, and I think, you know.
Well, I think Alan asked everyone should be here because we were going to talk about this, but
Yeah.
see everyone here.
Yeah,
Just saying.
I
okay.
don't
Just
know-
because
I don't
we-
know- and I
We
don't
just
know-
don't have a huge window, and that's,
And I don't know if it's
So can I ask-
appropriate, but if I may, I
Yeah.
don't know if it's appropriate, but I'm already, I think, slated possibly to come to the executive meeting for another topic.
Yes.
So.
Oh,
if we
that's
had-
true.
So if we
That's
had
yes.
questions,
Yep.
Andrea and I would be there. Once we get the board update information out to you, and you can call it, if we had questions, maybe we could cover it there.
I
And
like that.
and then just answer the questions and maybe move it on to the September.
so I think what I'm hearing, I just want to make sure we're getting in the board update. So what I'm hearing is, what is the timeline that, you know, and they have that, they have
Yep.
what Jim loves to call a Gantt chart, and.
I love again. Love
Yeah.
it again.
Word, I'm like, what is that? It's like a timeline.
It's timeline.
Yeah, but also sort of the offsetting costs. So the excess cost of the product where, you know, how are we neutral?
Yes.
on our
Why
budget?
is that a good thing? Yeah.
So Jim, those are the two things we'll make sure
Yeah,
that
so
go
I'm
in
sorry,
that
we
word.
sidebarred, we heard timeline.
Offsetting costs.
What are the offsetting costs? So we firm that up that this is not an ad, but it's a neutral recommendation.
So honestly, that, right.
Right.
That's the part that,
Yep, and that's in year one.
right.
In year two,
That's the part we're looking at. But
year
yeah,
two, but
I'm not looking
Year
at
two.
the budget process, I'm looking to make sure that it is.
In this fiscal year, it is a net zero. Like, no extra cost.
For this fiscal year.
Correct. And then we would budget for it in
I'll
additional.
give you 1 second.
We just
here.
found it real quick.
Yeah.
If you would like to see it.
Let me send, is it
And
this
we've
one?
asked a couple.
But it's-
Not if Andrea has to present.
No, Andrea, I'm gonna-
Come on.
We want to get out of here.
So I'm trying to get to the food truck. I want my ice cream. Come on.
Oh, see, now he's like, go open your email, which you
Yep.
never do.
Yes, you do.
Oh, I know, this is the kid's owner.
I forwarded it.
Hold, please.
Like I said, I am not trying to, you guys know the system and what is needed and all that, and truly, I don't think that's.
So-
It's for us, yeah, it's not for us
Right,
to
right.
choose,
So
but this is the one you think.
October's the beginning of data
Yes.
migration and calling up the system and, you know, configuration and all that kind of stuff. And then there's some milestones. One of the most major,
Oh.
Andrea mentioned.
Yeah, can you see that?
Yeah, it's hard to see. One of the most major milestones would be to get scheduling up and running by the early spring, so that it could be used by the principals and others to get
Well, it's
scheduled.
not like with
I think
a-
this would be.
It's not like if you have like a, like
Yeah,
an
it's
account,
better than boarding thing,
you
yeah.
can't run two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't run concurrent systems.
We are.
It's gotta work. or it's
Yeah, a
gotta
little
not.
bit, yeah. There will be a little bit of transition, but you're right. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to rip the Band-Aid off.
Exactly, you
Good to
do,
look at it.
you do.
Yeah, this is.
And there's some lay in here where we're going to supplement with IU training, you know.
Right.
We
Right.
talked about targeting introduction to the teachers in the early spring. A bit of a training in the late spring or just before they leave school, and then hitting them again heavy in August when they come back. But the ability for them to play with the system from spring to fall.
And it does give you the same video options, so for the people who want to put it on and listen to it in a car or whatever, like, it does still give you that, but we love the fact that there are real live humans that you can talk to and have email addresses and phone numbers for,
Right.
So,
and chat with.
here's the other piece that I think is clicking in my head and was not previously. Skyward sunsets in 28, however, you want this live and up for next
Right,
school
because
year.
we only
Just
have
to-
2 school years left.
And we might have to focus on business then.
Right,
Okay.
so we're, so.
That's another
That
huge
makes sense.
step
Yeah,
that
let's-
I think I
Why
need to-
next year as
Yeah.
opposed
Yes.
to?
Right.
Put that
I
in
was
the
thinking the
update too.
timeline went into
Because-
28 and I.
Right, so we have a 25-26 implementation with a go live of next summer for student.
Yeah.
And then there's a quick turnaround time to, we're gonna be sitting here, Drew will be sitting
For
here
the
next
business.
summer to start all over again. So
Got
as
it.
soon as you go live in summer, I get it, 3
We
months later.
didn't think we had the bandwidth
Yeah.
to go simultaneously.
No,
Thank you.
Everybody will have their.
right.
Now, I don't want to muddy the waters, but there is one module called eCollect, and that might reduce it. We're still evaluating whether we put it in because it's a worst case, and that's
Okay.
about $4,000 to
It's
$5,000 a
forms.
year.
Yeah,
But
form collection.
we're double and triple
Is
checking.
it better than Skyward's form collection? Because good God.
So
So it's
they
actually-
build that in as a native part of Power School.
back to school
and it-
forms and
And it
everything.
is
Yeah.
better.
Ugh.
But then they have this add-on
I hate
that we're
those.
just trying to confirm we don't
What
actually
is-
need
yeah.
because we have
Surveys.
Parent Square, and we have Qualtrics,
Right.
and
Oh, right,
we have
the
Google
extra stuff.
Forms, so.
Your new enrollment forms and your back to school forms are part of their enrollment module already rolled in there. And so that's why, like we said, when we have Parent Square and we have Qualtrics, we had the ability to gather data from parents in other ways. Maybe we don't need it. Maybe we do. We put it in there because we're not sure yet. But,
I mean, it's good to have it in one spot, right? But yeah.
right.
You can
Right.
see it
That
there.
is timeline,
Yeah,
very
it's us-
helpful,
it's
thank
us,
you.
And it's also, Emily, and you've done this, right? So it's also us trying to be fully ready to hand off to an IU team to train
Mhm.
with no questions, and it's fully vetted and tested, and
Got
bang,
it.
bang,
Built
bang.
in, tested. Yep,
Okay.
got it.
So that's why the time feels super constrained.
Right, no, right.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
And they're very good too about, we've been going back and forth. Power School has a Pennsylvania rep who actually lives nearby, a few miles away. And so he's been very, he's Jim Shaper, right?
Oh, good. You should walk your dog and
where he lives.
So, but he's amazing, and he's the Power School Pennsylvania rep. Whether you're with MCIU, CLIU, corporate, he does all of the Power School districts in this part of the state. So he's really great about that. So we've already gone back to him a couple times and been like, could we tweak this? Could we tweak that? And he's awesome.
Good.
Good, great.
So we feel good about that too. Actually, he was my Power School rep in my previous district, so that's how long he's been around, that he knows the climate, he knows the districts, and he kind of seems to know what works and what doesn't, so we feel good about it, right?
Okay. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you
Yeah.
for your
Still
time.
need time.
We know
for
we know there'll be a lot more questions, we just want to.
I think everybody needs to see that
Okay.
timeline and that it's budget neutral. I think if you lead with those things,
Yeah.
that's going to get your sign off faster than.
And it's a have to do something, right?
Yeah, you have to do
Yeah, I mean,
something.
we're here. It's
Right,
right.
right.
So
I'm fine with that.
So I think, should it be an action item or no?
An action, am I,
A votable action item
Yes.
on the agenda this week, next week.
and if it's not next week, it's the first week in September?
Yeah, whenever the first board meeting.
Second,
is.
yeah,
Yeah,
second Thursday.
And we can live with that, we were just
I-
looking for the jump start.
Go with that one.
I'd go,
Second week
yeah,
of September.
second week of September,
Rather
I'm
you-
I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, I will stick very firmly to that, and I will make sure that all of the board members are very well aware that this is not something that we will defer
Yeah, that makes-
any further than that. Do you think
So-
that's fair? Because I think we've had that.
Well, can we make the recommendation?
Yes,
to put it
yes,
on the
I was
second?
gonna ask, can you make the
Because we
recommendation
want
for the
to-
September board?
Motion to put
Yes.
this on the vote.
Thanks.
Second.
Any questions? Good, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed?
Motion passes. We're going to put it on the second week in
Thank you so
September.
much.
Yes, you
Doing
are.
all that
And
work.
we will make it very
Thank you for
clear
your time. Thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
to the rest of the board
It's
how
so
important.
I
Whoever
know.
bumps it out.
We bumped it out, and we will not, we cannot bump it again. Yeah,
That's it.
good?
It sounds like a plan.
Okay, thank you.
This is just a customer service announcement that are at our September meeting. We also have an ad hoc meeting where we'll be sharing the survey results
Oh, good.
from the comprehensive plan.
Can't wait.
And so, right?
All right.
And we'll be talking a little bit more in depth about the goals of the district this year and most of the selected goals from the buildings. These aren't the building presentations. We'll just be giving, this year's snapshot of comprehensive plan goals. So,
Thank you.
Not at all.
Okay.
All right. That being said, anything else from the audience? Thank you.
Except for a list of special ed terms.
Yeah.
I got that.
Yeah, which are, hard to remember.
Acronyms.
List of special ed terms.
Oh,
All right, I'll accept a
You
motion
can
to
go on the
adjourn.
agenda. We did it for induction. We can do that.
Wait one
Thank you.
second.
Oh, second. Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
See you Thursday, next week. Next Thursday. And, I mean,
I went to work at 6:15 this morning.
sorry I didn't understand. I guess
It was going